People are always striving to become enlightened when they're searching in spiritual circles and checking out different gurus, searching the Upanishads, the Vedas. Christianity, they dig really deep into the Gnostics and that sort of thing. And they have read stories about Siddhartha Gautama, the original Buddha, or the Buddha, or a Buddha. And he is known to be an enlightened person. Obviously, Jesus was enlightened, and Krishna, and a whole bunch of others that, well, I shouldn't say a whole bunch of others, a handful of others since the beginning of time. But what nobody tells you is what is the point and purpose of enlightenment. You don't even know the point and purpose of your life, your existence, and then you strive to become enlightened. Well, of course, there's nothing wrong with it. I'm not criticizing it. I'm just laying out my own personal point of view about these things. So, some people say you're already enlightened, but that's stupid. That's like saying you're already dead. Okay, so I'm already dead, or you're already not dead, or you're already not born yet, or who knows? You already own a nice shiny Cadillac or a nice big pickup truck, even though you don't. It's just craziness to keep your mind occupied with these fake ideas of what enlightenment is, and to stop your forward progression so that you fixate upon what they're trying to teach you, which is the craziness of non-duality. So getting back to the thing where they say, well, you're already enlightened. Well, even though you're not. Here's the thing. Let's pretend for a second, and this isn't really on my part pretending, but for you, let's pretend that when you die, there is a holding period, or a probationary period, or whatever you want to call it, after you die and prior to becoming reincarnated again. Buddha talked about being reincarnated time after time after time, and he wanted it to end. So I'm not talking about something that you don't already grasp. So in each time you die, you are in a spiritual situation where, presto changeo, you're enlightened. The problem is you're not physical anymore. You're not in a physical environment anymore. You know who you are to a sense that to the point of your current development, you know what you are. There's no hesitation about am I enlightened or am I not enlightened. Of course you're enlightened at that particular time beyond the physical life that you live. So to say that you're already enlightened, well, that's like saying you're already dead. No, you're not already enlightened. Some people become enlightened while they're still alive. Let me explain to you the value of enlightenment and the non-value of enlightenment. For instance, if a person is interested in enlightenment because it's just like any other subject or science or whatever it may be, if that's the case, you're actually headed towards demonic powers and stuff, because the only way you're going to utilize enlightenment, if you become enlightened, properly to benefit your soul for all eternity, is if it is a result rather than a goal. It's a result of your absolute, indescribable love for the Creator of all things. And if that is your desire and you strive to learn more about your Creator because you love your Creator, then you have things in the proper perspective. And then if you become enlightened, it will be like, I can't remember the guy's name, but it's thousands of years ago or hundreds of years ago, a Eastern philosophy master said something about mountains are mountains and streams are streams, and when you become enlightened they're no more, and then eventually they are again. So the reality is, an enlightened person sees with their spiritual eyes a reality that nobody else sees. They see as though they weren't physical anymore. And when I say see, I'm not talking with the physical eyes. I'm talking with an intuitive power and knowledge and wisdom that is absolutely real. And the light switch, so to say, is turned on 100% of the time, even in your dreams. But the problem is, well, it isn't a problem, but the situation is that when you are enlightened and you're alive in this reality and you're aware enough to understand what the heck is going on, enlightenment doesn't do you any good. It doesn't give you an advantage over any other human being. You just happen to be blessed to realize, not know, but realize that this reality isn't what it appears to be, that in fact it's an illusion created by the Creator, and it has no substance to it whatsoever. But the purpose of your life is to develop who you are. So an enlightened master that is experienced in these sorts of things will, after that period of time of, and there is a period of time, enlightenment is instant, yes, but it takes a while to adjust to that, and years actually, to adjust to that because it's a constant thing. But when that happens, then they realize, oh, this life is no different for me than it is for all the unenlightened people. It's absolutely no different whatsoever. You still have to get up in the morning. You still have to tend to your wounds and your arthritis and hunger and sickness and all of these things. You still have to attend to that. You still feel those things, but it's different. But you still feel it. And when you're dead and gone and you're in the other spiritual realm, so, well, there is going to be very little change other than the fact that you now are not physical again, and you'll realize that it was the value of being enlightened while you're physical isn't a value really. And oh boy, this is hard to express. For instance, you can become enlightened. In fact, a lot of people do. I would think that most people that become enlightened, and they're not very many, do not have this Bhakti love, this incredible love for the Creator, for God, the Almighty. And then they become enlightened. It isn't a advantage for them in that sense, because very few of them go on to discover God, if you will, because they're so content with enlightenment. I think I've rambled enough about that. The next subject, or connected to that, is non-duality. The issue, getting back, I know I beat this horse to death, so to say, about non-duality is, here's the problem. If you study non-duality to the furthest extent, and it takes the average person that really puts forth the greatest effort possible, it takes the average person a decade or more to understand to the fullest extent to where they realize what non-duality is. Now, if you're unemployed or if you're financially independent so that you don't have to really work and you can spend all your waking hours studying it, then yeah, you could probably get it in a year and a half or so, but most people are not in that situation in their life. But here's the problem with non-duality. First off, it's wrong, but here's the the problem with it. If you are using a tool that doesn't belong to you, and it belongs to a super wealthy person, and they got like 35 of the same exact tools, and you get the idea that, well, since they got so many of these tools, they don't really care about it, even though it's a very expensive tool. So you kind of don't take really that good care of it, as if it were your own. Now, assuming you have to work for a living and you value the stuff that, and you work hard and you save your money for 3 or 4 years, and then you can afford to buy that tool, and it's an extremely useful tool. If you're a woman, maybe it's a sewing machine, maybe it's maybe you're a scientist as a woman and it's some big telescope or whatever. Or if you're a guy, maybe it's some welding device or whatever. Doesn't matter. Let's assume it's a very expensive tool, but it's also fragile. You probably are not, the average person is not going to really care that much about maintaining it because it's not their own. And they know for a surety the person that owns it's got 20 of the exact same tools, and they don't even use it. They're a billionaire. So, but if it was your own, you're going to shine it up and take care of it, and when it's done, you put it back where it belongs, this, that, and everything else. So non-duality is just like that. Because when you realize, as a non-dualist, that you in fact are God, they talk about you're a drop in the ocean, and the ocean is God. So you're God. Or you're a molecule, or who cares what it is. The end line is, when you drive down deep, you'll find out in non-duality that you are God. God's asleep in you, or whatever the case may be. Well, you don't really care that much about your own spiritual well-being for all eternity. You don't give a damn because you're God. You're not going to put forth the great effort to do whatever. Maybe you're a deviant, a sexual deviant person. Who knows what the hell you do? Or maybe you are not all that caring towards other human beings, or maybe you just don't care about your own body because, oh, well, I'm going to die, whatever. You know, Jesus said your body is the temple, and you well know that the idea behind that is a temple is supposed to be a holy place, and it's supposed to be a place that the average person that belongs to a religion or faith that actually has that temple, they're very reverent with that temple. They want to make sure it's well maintained and stuff. Well, as a non-dualist, you're not going to feel that way for the most part. I am very concerned about other people's stuff, but I'm here to tell you, if I was using a tool that belonged to a billionaire and he had 100 of them and he's never going to use it, and I don't own it, it's not mine, I'm probably not going to take care of it as much as if it were my own. See what I'm saying? Non-duality is a fake, false lie. It's not true. You are responsible for your own eternal actions. Be that love, be that respect. That's the purpose of this life, to test you. It's not a test exactly. It's like saying you have a seed and you put it in the ground and you pour water on it and you open the windows for the sunlight. Is that testing the seed? You know, if you don't put very much sunlight on it, the seed's not going to grow very well. If you don't water it, it's not going to grow. If you water it and then stop watering, it's going to wilt and die. But if you continually put effort into it, it will grow and develop. So you, in a sense, are a seed, and you're responsible for your own seed. And you are the one that maintains it. Now, God produces all this illusory reality for you to create yourself with by the choices you make. But if you believe that you are God, you're not really going to pay that much attention to your eternal well-being and your eternal... You're not going to really push for this love of God, because that's like saying you love yourself. Well, of course, it's just not the same thing. It's not the same thing. And I am not ignorant about Advaita, the Vedanta, and all of that stuff. I'm not ignorant of that stuff. I'm only telling you it's wrong. Absolutely a lie. It's wrong. They've misinterpreted it. Adi Shankara, some 800 years ago, was some young 20-plus-year-old punk that was a genius, and he didn't understand what he was doing. He was mesmerized by the power and the authority, and his constant arguing with other spiritual people, and his superior brain allowed him to dominate the people in his debates and stuff like that. No, he wasn't enlightened. He was a punk, essentially, a spiritual punk, and he misinterpreted it. And now there's hundreds of thousands, millions of people that believe that hogwash, and it's wrong. And of course, you're never going to know what the truth is because you believe that hogwash. Anyways, thanks for watching. Bye.